Welcome back to the Practical Wealth Show. So today we're going to talk about the 5 biggest wealth transfers nobody ever talks to you about. Kurt's going to talk to you about them today. And so in the last episode, we talked about why smart, high-earning people still struggle with money and how it's not about how much you make, it's how much you keep and control. So today, I'm turning back or pulling back the curtain, if you will. And what we're going to do is I'm going to on the 5 biggest wealth transfers. I'm going to name them. I may go over a couple of visuals. So if you're listening to this, you might want to get to YouTube. But we're going to look at the how they transfer your wealth. And I remember I said last week that the most people are transferring their wealth by people that or institutions, right, that create the situations, control the outcomes so that they profit off of you not quite understanding how the game is played. Okay. And as I always say, it's really hard to win a game. You know the rules. Okay. And so Coach Curtis is here to break down the rules. All right. So if you ever felt you're working hard, but building wealth was way too slow, right? Chances are you're losing money, and here is likely what's happening. It's unknowingly and unnecessarily. So let's talk about the problem. Again, if you don't know the problem, the solution doesn't matter. So wealth isn't lost in one big mistake. Even though people are always like swinging for home runs, it's 1,000 little leaks that repeat year after year after year. Financial institutions, the government, traditional planning is designed to keep your money in motion, but away from you. Okay. And so, not for you. They teach you to accumulate, but meanwhile, they're using your money to create velocity. And so you have to get in control. So I had one of my mentors told me that more money is lost in the way people manage cash flow than they'll ever make picking winning investments. So here are the 5 wealth transfers most people ignore. So I'm going to give them to you and then we'll go into a little bit. So number one, taxes. Okay. Tax is the biggest wealth transfer, whether you're especially if you're W-2, but even for business owners alike. I saw some statistic, 93% of business owners overpay their taxes. One of the things that we ask people, because we're partnering where we're doing tax planning, is, so if that's a question, you should hit us up because we can connect you with somebody that can help you. But the question is, when's the last time your accountant ever came to you and said, hey, I got some ideas to minimize your taxes? Or are they doing, their job is compliance to do the taxes. So a lot of times you think you're getting tax strategy, but you're not. You're just getting tax prep with some basic stuff. Oh, you should max out your 401k and you need a SEP and blah, 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 blah. That's very superficial. It's just better stuff you can do with that. And so if you begin to understand how much money you're losing, it's like, yeah, I need to do something different, right? So here are some common mistakes. Over withholding. This is for W-2 people. Over withholding. So if you're getting like you don't have real estate and you get a big tax refund, you're over withholding. So you're not getting, that's not a bonus. You're just getting your own money back, right? Refund. That means your money again, right? And so you're not optimizing deductions. You're not using proper entity to structuring. So if you're a single member LLC and you're self-employed and you're starting to hit where you're making $5,000-$6,000 a month, $100,000 a year, and you're still operating as an LLC, folks, the LLC is not a tax thing. It's not a tax. It's more of an asset protection. So you're not doing business underneath your social, but it's not saving you money in taxes. Now you want to get with your person and, Tom Wheelwright told me one time I was at a conference with him. He says on his show all the time, if you want to change your tax, you have to change your facts, FACTS, right? So if you say, well, look, I don't want to be taxed as a sole proprietorship. I want to be taxed as a corporation, an S corp. Then, so if you're making like approaching 50, 75, or 100 grand a year, it's time to talk to your person and say, look, I need can we do an S election? And so I had a person I told that, he's like, oh, $15,000 in taxes. And I was like, tell me about it. And I just was sitting in the backyard, in my backyard, just talked to him on the phone one Sunday afternoon. And I was like, tell me about this. Well, how much was the bill? I said, well, yeah. I said, what kind of business are you? He says, I'm LLC. I said, well, what type? What do you mean? Are you sole proprietor? How do you file Schedule C? Yes. Okay. Well, you're sole proprietorship. How much do you make? 200,000. Uh-huh. And so you get hit with, what is it? 15.3% self-employment tax. You've got to pay attention. Got that right there. He says he's my client for life because I saved him 15,000 in 15 minutes, and his accountant never told him. And I don't know. Not a tax expert, but I've been in business all my life, so I'm saying some of this stuff because I got the scars to prove this stuff. I had to figure this crap out. All right, and so do you. But Coach Curtis here is trying to, kind of ease the pain so you don't have to go through stuff I went through, right? And so, if your account only reports history but never helps you plan forward, you're paying history. If you just give your person a box of receipts in March or April, you're not getting taxed. There's nothing you can do. It's all history now. So it might be helping you find some stuff you did, but you can't proactively look for plans to minimize taxes. And taxes, make no mistake about it, are your number one wealth transfer and expense. What is a transfer? Let's go back. A wealth transfer meaning money is leaving your checking account or your asset column going to somebody else's asset column. But it's worse than that because once it's gone forever. So that money it's not just the tax you paid or the big ticket item that you paid. It's that money going into the future at interest. Okay. And so you don't look this. So most people are giving away, if you're working, you'll give away unnecessary $1 to $3 million. I used to say, well, I hope people find $3,000-$4,000 a month, $500 a month to $4,000 a month. And I was not understanding it wasn't that short-term money. It was the millions of dollars that you're not losing. And so that's the analysis that we'll walk you through. So that taxes, number one, interest on debt. Mortgages, car loans. I might show you an example of that. Student loans. Even at low rates, the volume of interest is staggering over a lifetime. And even, I don't care. Oh, Curtis, you understand? I got a 0 interest credit card. All right. But do you make payments? And aren't those payments going to somebody else's financial institution, right? Interest is what institutions want you to think is important. Okay, but it's still a wealth transfer, and you have to look at that. So you want to, some people, I want you to get out of debt. But there's good debt and bad debt. But I want you to get rid of your consumer debt. But you can't get rid of your consumer debt to the detriment of ignoring your asset column first. All right. So we can walk people through a program. You can, if you hit us up and say at kurtmay@gmail.com, Curtis, what is our debt? I have a program called Debt Free for Life. We'll walk you through how to integrate, how to be the bank, permanent insurance to show you how to get rid of your debt. But at the end of the debt, you still have money and new cash flow. How about that? What's the point of being out of debt and broke? All right. So, and so here's the thing. Here's another transfer. Market risk, fees, just basic financial planning. Wall Street encourages you to buy, hold, and hope. Hope ain't a good strategy, right? But volatility, fees. People talk about the magic of compound interest. We don't talk about the magic of compound fees and what that's cost you. That's a whole other show. We go through that with our clients, and I do. Or if you're a member of our Money for Life Club, we go over that kind of stuff when I have a longer forum to really, do some screen shares and pull out some calculators so you can really understand what's going on with your money. And so I always tell people, look, if you have 1% fee on a $500,000 account over 30 years, that can cost you six figures. But it's worse than that. Remember, because it's not the six figures, is that money at interest, which is millions. All right. And so I'm not anti-market. I know I'm jokingly say, what do you do? I'm an anti-Wall Street financial advisor. I'm really not anti-Wall Street. I am anti blind investing without control. I'm anti you not knowing what the hell you're doing. That's what I'm anti. All right. And so here's the fourth major capital purchase. Okay. Well, I define a major capital purchase as anything you can't pay for in full within monthly cash flow. Okay. And so cars, renovations, tuition, most people either finance or pay cash, but they lose the opportunity to earn money on that money. Okay. So every time you pay cash for a car, you stop the money from working for you. And, and then lifestyle creep and untracked cash flow. That I really should put that number one. And see, so one of the things that we teach our clients is you must learn how to tell your money where to go instead of asking where it went. Okay. Budgets don't work. So all right. So if you're watching now, I'm going to share my screen here, and I'm not going to go through all these transfers. I'm just going to go through one or two. So here is a big one that people do with credit cards. Okay. So here's a card. And so when you look at what we call your personal economy or your circle of wealth, you've got opportunity costs, you've got the interest, and you've got the debt. So credit cards can be very expensive. And here's why. They're more expensive than you think. So let's say your average household I'm running into is like 15,000 of credit card debt. Not just one, but some of the time just one. And let's say the rate is 23%. Let's say, I'll be conservative. Let's say you can earn 5 on your money. Low yield investment or something. Probably could earn that's more of a savings rate, but I don't want y'all to get hung up on rates. So now let's say if you looked at it, so on this $15,000, if you just paid the minimum payment, let's say in a year, you're going to pay $38.78 in interest. That is a wealth transfer. That is money that is not working for you. So let's just carry this out over 2 years. $77.55. 3 years, $11,633. That's $11,000 you don't have that you've given to the financial institution. Now you see why we say, guys, you want to be a customer in a bank, or you want to be the bank, right? So if you were the bank, I'll come back to that later. But that money could be in that $11,000 better in your pocket, or Visa's, or Wells Fargo's, right? So in 5 years, you've given away almost $20,000. Okay, over 20 years, $77,000. Over 40 years, $155,000. Now, here is the opportunity cost part. What have you been able to just earn 5% on that money? You'd have 21. You'd have 128. Would have 468,000. So with an extra $400,000 at the end of the day, at I'm gonna say the R word, retirement or what have you, would that be an insignificant amount of money? What if you could earn? So let's say you're a good investor, right? And that was 7%. Now that's $750,000. All right. And so this is what the lender made off you. Check this out. Okay. So now this is what so we say, look, you want to be the bank. This is how banks make money. They're using your money. They're giving you money, paying you 1% to rent your money, but then they're loaning it out. Just on credit cards, but they do car loans, they do mortgages, but I'm just talking about here's the true cost of the credit card debt. So I'm not saying not use credit cards. Hear me. I'm saying, because you ain't going to live in, right now as we record this 2025 without a credit card. So that whole cut your credit card things, that's nonsense. But you do need to have control. And if you use something and you can't pay it off at the end of the month, that means you can't afford it, right? So you need to make, so when we tell people, look, here's a use case. If you had a properly structured dividend paying whole life, you could charge it, get the points, got 30-day free use of the institution's money. Then you take a loan against your pool of capital, pay them off, and make the same payments that you were willing to pay to somebody else back to you. Okay. And so that's how you never let money leave your personal economy. Let's do one more. So let's talk about major capital purchases. And I'll do one alone on traded cards. But let's talk about major capital purchases. So anything you can't pay for in full within monthly cash flow is a major capital purchase. So there's two ways to pay for them. So one, you can borrow from a lender and make future principal and interest payments until it's paid in full. Okay, so this is a picture of our personal economics. So let's take a car. So you borrow from your savings or investment accounts and replace your dollars taken by lost interest, right? But nobody puts it back. Like, so if you borrowed, $20,000 to pay cash for a car, not borrowed, withdrew, okay, drained the tank to pay for it, very few people put it back, what I call with interest, right? And that they would have lost. So let me illustrate. So what happens is this, because one of the things that you got to understand, guys, you finance everything you buy. You finance everything you buy. Did I say you finance everything you buy? All right. So here's what I mean. So you either pay interest from a lender, so you either borrow from a lender, right, and pay interest, and let's look at this, or you drain the tank. See, when you pay cash, for all my pay cash people, you're giving up interest you could be earning had you not drained the tank, okay? Because that money's now no longer working for you. So when you borrow and when you borrow other people's money, you're borrowing from your future lifestyle because you're using future earnings as collateral. So let's look at a $30,000 cost, right? And it costs you 5% over 60 months. So you got a payment of $566, okay? So now, if you had $30,000 saved up and you need to make a purchase of the same amount, so we're going to look at the same $30,000 either way, all right? And it's 5% either way. You're either earning or giving up 5%. So if you saved money, let's go back. All right. So first of all, let's back up. It took you 5 years at 5% to save up $30,000. Okay. And so now if you had a major capital purchase like a car or whatever, or a refinance, a kitchen remodel, you could pay cash, which will require you drain the tank. And every time you drain the tank, compound interest resets. Or you could finance, right? And so your money earned interest, you use other people's money, but you're paying interest, but you maintain control of your $30,000. See, you want to be able to, but see, if you have money, that's not debt because you have the money. So now you're borrowing out of opportunity, not out of necessity, right? And so what happens is if you got an interest payment, but look at how your green tank is still growing. And yes, you had an outflow of 33,000, and you had an opportunity cost of 4,500 of interest loss, so it's 3,800. But you also have $38,000, sorry, in your what we call your private reserve account or your banking system, right? And so even if you had extra payments, what extra payments do is it lowers the interest paid, and you lose a little bit less interest. So if you could accelerate it, whether accelerating institutional payments or institutions to your bank, there's no free money, guys, is my point. And so I don't feel like doing it. But let's say you pay cash, right? So in order to pay cash, you got to save cash. right? See my animation here? And then you uh still had to drain the tank, and so you got payments. If you want your money, if you liquidate it, if you want your money to get back to where it was, you've got to make extra payments to your pool of capital. And I'm telling you, most people just don't have the discipline to do that. So assuming to earn the same rate of money to that you would have paid to borrow, it costs the same. And so you got to ask yourself, well, paying every time you pay cash, you drain the tank and you reset your compounding. Okay. You you can earn more interest on than it costs to borrow money, but you keep your money from the lender, right? You still maintain control. So maintaining control, you're going to see that theme in all my conversations, is control may be worth more than paying higher interest. Okay. And borrow funds require a reduction in lifestyle to replenish it, right? Because remember, when you borrow, you're using future earnings as collateral. And when you pay cash, paying cash is financing. It's just self-financing. Okay. And so that is our lesson for today in terms of transfers. But these are the types of things that we try to show people, because it's it's your money. I always tell people it's not my money. And what I want you to do is, again, it's hard to win a game when you do not know the rules. And what you want to be able to do is is um, maintain control. All right, let me get you off stage here. So in conclusion of what I'm thinking about, I'm hoping you're just getting an idea. I just wanted to. I was in a teaching mood today, right? And what I want you to do is you got to manage your cash flow. We'll do a whole show on that one, and hopefully you're seeing how you want to identify. So those things I showed on the screen: how you pay your mortgage, taxes, how you fund qualified plans, how you manage cash flow, insurances. Sometimes you're overpaying. A lot of you are underinsured. So insurance is a protective expense that you've got to pay more money on, because you got to build your moat around your castle. Okay. So if this was hitting home for you, because let me go back. All right. So once you see these transfers on paper, I don't know if it's like flipping on a light switch in a dark room. You can't fix what you can't see. So you have to be able to see it. So the first step is to map your cash flow. And find or eliminate wealth transfers. So that is step one in our Money for Life blueprint. And so our first step is always mapping your cash flow. First, we find the leaks, and then we build a system to recapture those leaks. And then that's where strategies like becoming your own bank. If you don't know what I'm talking about, get the book by Nelson Nash, Become Your Own Banker, because this is where we teach people to store the liquidity. Okay, or most of their liquidity. And so that's when that comes into play. But see, if you don't have the money, you can't beat the banks. A lot of people hear these little buzzwords: beat a bank and build wealth, building your banking system. Listen, you got to save money to beat a bank. You got to or move inefficient money in there. But you've got to last week we talked about the 5 principles. So 15, 20, 30% or more. If you make 100 grand, could you save 25,000? Where would you put it? Right. Well, what if you could put it somewhere, save it, and the money always went up, but you could access it so you didn't have to use third-party capital? How much better off would you be? How much more peace of mind would you have? Okay. And so that's where becoming your own bank comes into play, because once you plug the leaks, you need a place to store the money and where it's safe, liquid, and still working for you. So that's what next episode is all about. So if this hits home with you and you're wondering, how much money am I losing unknowingly and necessarily, I built a resource to help you get to that clarity fast. It's called the Cash Flow Control Blueprint. We're going to show you your wealth transfers. We'll help you identify the leaks from your cash flow, and it's the first step to Money for Life and our Money for Life blueprint. So look in the show notes, and in the next episode, We're going to talk about the financial treadmill, why just working harder isn't the answer, okay? And how to step off the treadmill and finally get your money working for you. Guys, hope you enjoyed this episode. Tell a friend who needs to hear this, and y'all have a great day.